3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Team Sessa Talks.
Get excited.
I am Daniel. This is Santo. He's my dad, and we are part of Team Sessa.
We are Team Sessa.
We are Team Sessa, and so today we wanted to tell you last podcast, or I don't want to say podcast, but last show we covered the CBC marketplace, where we were talking about their expose on shady agents in the business. And if you haven't seen that, go back. You can check it out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all the places you go to get your podcasts. But if you haven't seen that, go check it out. But today we want to talk about another practice in real estate that gets a lot of hate.
And it's justified it gets a lot of hate. A lot of realtors don't like it either.
Yeah, so the process of blind bidding is what we're going to be talking about today.
Just the word blind in blind bidding already kind of gives you a bad feeling.
It definitely does not sound like something good. So, Dad, what is blind bidding? Let's get right into it.
Blind bidding, I mean, it happens in all sorts of other industries also. But blind bidding in general is the process of submitting an offer, a bid, without knowing any details of any of the other offers.
And so
you're bidding blind. You're putting in an offer blind, and you don't know what the other offers are. You don't know what the people you're competing against are offering.
And that, as most of you know, because we know that a lot of you guys that watch our channel are very much in tune with real estate. That is a process that's been going on like crazy right now. And it's only possible in a seller's market, though, correct?
Well, no. I mean, you can have blind bidding or just the idea of multiple offers, more than one buyer wanting to buy. You can have it in any market. I mean, there's going to be situations where, let's say it was the reverse. Right now, we're in an extreme seller's market. So way more buyers than there are properties available for sale. So the market kind of can't help itself, but you put a property for sale, lots of buyers are just going to want to compete.
Yeah.
So the process of blind bidding is the way we do that. But what if it was the reverse? What if it was a buyer's market? Well, it'd be way less prevalent, the whole blind bidding thing. However, there could still be sellers pricing their home way below market. And even if it is a buyer's market, still sellers pricing way below, and you can still have more than one buyer wanting to buy the house.
But it's definitely not something you see as often.
No.
In a buyer's market, or even in more of a balanced market too.
It'll be less,
right?
Yeah. If we move into a balance, I say if we'll see. That's a topic for another conversation. But let's say the more balanced it becomes as far as supply and demand and buyers and sellers, then we'll see the idea of more than one buyer trying to buy a property. We'll see that less and less and less.
Exactly. Okay, so now everyone, the public generally doesn't seem to like blind bidding.
Absolutely not.
And they think it's the realtor's fault.
100% they do.
But why do realtors do it then?
First of all, lots of realtors don't like blind bidding either.
Yeah.
But because the realtor is the face of all this, of everything real estate, the realtor is the face, that's the person that gets attacked. And this is, I mean, there's lots of terrible realtors out there. There's lots of good realtors out there. This is not really a conversation about good realtors, bad realtors. But all realtors, often we get beat up because of this whole process.
Yeah.
Well, our legislation, the way our rules, our real estate rules, the way realtors are governed, our legislation does not permit us. It's against our rules if we give any kind of detail about another offer.
Yeah.
The only detail we're allowed to give within the framework of the way our rules are written right now is the amount of offers received.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we're allowed to do. So that's what, let's just say we're all doing our job properly. That's what we do or should be doing.
Yeah.
And we also do it because sellers want it.
I think that's one of the main points that, I hear a lot of people blaming the agents when it comes to blind bidding and when it comes to these prices, but I can't remember a time where we've gone to a listing appointment and like it's generally the seller that brings it up.
Yeah.
It's generally the seller that says, "Hey, I saw this house sold for 300,000 over asking a few days ago on my street.
Yeah.
Let's do the same thing. Let's list it for $300,000 less and see how high we can go."
Yeah. The
And
sellers, sorry to cut you off. The sellers love it when they're selling, but then we go to buy and they hate it.
they want it banned after their sale.
Yeah, right after their sale, they want the rules changed.
But it's the whole transparency thing. I think that's the biggest issue when it comes to like this industry, right?
Well, let me give a scenario, right?
Yeah.
There's 5 offers on a property, and the listing agent goes to 3 of them and says, "You're the top 3. Before the seller decides, we're going to give you a chance if you want to make any improvements to your offer."
Yeah.
So the top 3, or they could say it to all 5, which is
Yeah.
to me, ridiculous when they do that. Okay, we're giving everybody another chance automatically. Like, what the hell is that?
Side note. Remember a couple of weeks ago? So there was an agent that said that before offers were even accepted, they said, "Okay, everyone's gonna get a second chance."
Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, offers are due at this time, but then after that, once we review them, we're giving everybody a second chance. Like, what the hell is that? It's absurd. It's so funny. It's like, what's the point?
Oh, that was
And
funny.
so, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But okay, so going back to the scenario.
Okay, so there's 5 offers, and the listing agent goes to the top 3 and says, "You're the top 3. We're not asking anything from the other 2. We're just telling them we're not working with them. But we're going to we're telling you guys, the top 3, that we're going to give you a chance to improve your offer.
Yeah.
And then the seller will make a decision."
Yeah.
And so the top 3 now, the individual buyers with their agents, they discuss, and they're all assuming they should be told the same thing, right? Well, the bottom 2 of those top 3, let's just say for sake of argument that they're pretty close.
Yeah.
But the number 1 could be $100,000 higher,
Yeah.
$50,000, $100,000 higher than the second place.
Yeah.
So the second and third place, they improve their offers, but it's still not enough
Yeah.
to beat number 1. But nobody knows
Yeah,
this.
and that's the problem.
And number 1 increases their price by another, say, 50,000. So they're now, up 150,000 more than the second place. And then they're the winning. But all this was using number 2 and number 3 as decoy to get the first one higher. That even with number 2 and number 3 increase in their offers, still would have number 1 would still have the winning bid, but they go in even more. And this is the part that gives such a bad taste in people's mind.
Yeah.
And,
100%.
it just seems right. It feels wrong. It seems wrong. It seems, and the way it's set up right now, it's totally in favor of the sellers.
Yeah.
And discriminates against the buyer. It totally takes advantage of the buyers. The way the system is right now.
And that is a very big problem. And we saw that recently too, going back to another example the other day, where there was an offer presentation. There were 2 offers. We happened to be one of them, and another buyer was the other one. And we were substantially less than what we were told was we were substantially less than the other offer. but the other offer was close to the number that the person wanted to hit,
That the
that
seller
the
was
seller
looking
wanted
for.
to hit.
Yes.
But they said if we provide them with that number, the seller would accept our offer. But if we didn't, then the other buyer would probably win. But even then, he had told us that that other offer, which was higher and closer to what the seller was wanting, he didn't think that they can get them up to that number. And so they were going to end up just relisting it.
Yeah. So
Right?
he was playing us.
So and
He was
then
playing us.
and then they ended up selling it for that number because
Yeah.
what they probably told them was that, hey, you have to be at this number because there's another offer, and those guys went up
Yeah. So
when they didn't
So-
have to, right?
they didn't have to go
Yeah.
up, and he told that other offer
Yeah.
probably opposite of what he told us.
Yeah,
And why didn't our client go up higher? Well, we looked at what the
Yeah.
values were. We looked at what's recently sold. We're looking at our client's budget.
yeah,
And we give them the advice, look, here's really
Where it should be.
it should be. Can somebody spend 5, 10, 20, 30,000 more if they really, really want to be there? For sure.
yeah,
But should somebody spend 100,000 more, 150,000 more? That's a little bit crazy, and we don't give that kind of advice. So our buyer chose, nope, that's it, we're backing out. And the other person, once we found out the sold price,
yeah,
was 150,000 higher than our buyer's offer.
yeah,
And our buyer's attitude was, well, once they knew the price, like,
yeah,
why were we even considering
yeah,
increasing? Like, we never, like, we weren't even close.
yeah,
But I'm sure that the other buyer didn't know that at all
Yeah.
and thought we were close. And but
they'll
keep in
never
mind,
know. They'll never know.
keep in mind, everything that agent told us,
Yeah,
they're not allowed.
yeah,
That's totally against our rules. But it's funny. When you're on the listing side, that's against the rules. When you're
Yeah.
on the buying side, the buying agent, those rules don't apply. We can, ask for whatever we want.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
the more information we could find out, the better.
yeah.
So,
It's-
but it's very in favor of the seller, the way things are set up right now.
So now there's proposals to ban. I think the Liberal government said they were trying to ban blind bidding,
Yes.
and the real estate associations are saying no. They should have a choice as to how people should have a choice as to how they sell their home, right? But what would be an alternative that wouldn't leave such a bad taste in the buyer's mouth, but also would still satisfy the sellers as well?
Well, let me ask you something first. You just said that our real estate association, CREA, our real estate association, and the Toronto Real Estate Board, lots of the
Yeah.
real estate associations across the country will say sellers should have a choice. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a free market, open market. Sellers should have a choice. On the surface, kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
But we've seen all throughout many, many industries, yes, people have a choice, but it still needs to be fair.
yeah,
And if your
100%.
choice discriminates against, somebody else, then maybe it's just not fair, and changes need to be made. So yeah, sellers should have a choice of what they want to sell their house for. But if how they sell it isn't fair and takes advantage, then that's not fair.
yeah.
Right?
So what's an alternative to?
Well, what they're
This-
talking about a ban on blind bidding, meaning, look, there's always going to be, like, we can't avoid more than one buyer wanting to buy a house.
Yeah,
So maybe open bid, where you don't need to know everybody's offer, but you really should know the top one, and you as a buyer can decide, can you compete with that?
yeah,
Right? I mean, if people want to spend 2, 3, 400,000 more than market value, that's their choice.
Yeah.
We're not going to stop a buyer that's got deep pockets. Like, we just can't do that.
yeah,
But if you're a buyer going in, and you really should know the value you're competing against. You
Yeah.
really should know what's the highest offer, and Does that make sense?
And I read somewhere that, well, I read on multiple places that opening up we're making it an open bidding process, because they do it in Australia.
Yeah, in Australia,
And
they have auctions on front of the house, like
yeah.
they're all on the lawn. I
And
guess you could do that when it's good weather all year
Yeah.
round, right? Can you
But
imagine?
so they've done that already. It's been shown that it actually doesn't make a difference on house prices. Like Australia's prices apparently were up 20% year over year, from
Well,
what I read.
yes, there's other countries that do it also.
Mhm.
So the whole auction thing, there's examples on both sides. We've
Yeah.
lived in our real estate business examples where
yeah.
in one example we could see, man, if people knew what the high
Yeah.
bid was, the house probably would have sold for a little bit less.
Yeah.
And we got examples going the other way where they're actually quite close, 1, 2, and third place.
Yeah.
And once it finally sells, we get the second place person thinking,
Yeah.
oh man, if I knew I was only, 10, 15,000 away,
Yeah.
then I would have gone up
Well,
another.
that's the thing, right?
So
in situation A, someone overpays by 100,000, they win, and it's like, if they were to find out, they just feel like they paid too much, right?
Right.
They feel like they got scammed.
they feel like they got scammed.
And
yeah.
then situation B, if it's too close, then the buyer that was underneath then becomes the guy that's, oh, you know what? I would have paid an extra 15. I would have paid
Right.
an extra 10.
Right. And if you would have paid an extra 10, 15, 20, that's to beat that one.
Yeah.
How do you know that one that's not winning is not going to go another
Yeah.
10, 15 on top of you, and it becomes a competition. So
Less about the value of the home, more about actually winning the bid.
Exactly. And
And
some
what
of
is-
these
what is
people
ten-
now,
what is $10,000-$15,000 on a mortgage? Like it's
peanuts.
Yeah.
Peanuts. Especially with the rates these
Yeah.
days. It's peanuts. Tim Hortons coffee. No, maybe not Tim Hortons, but Starbucks coffee.
I don't know about Star. I think it's the other way.
But it's just that whole feeling of
Yeah.
of being cheated and let's not make a mistake. Some of these people now that are way overpaying
Yeah.
and being so much higher than everyone else on the bids, it's because they've lost out on 4 and 5 bids
Yeah.
already, and they just feel they got to go in so much higher.
Yeah.
Now, so how do we?
But it's sorry to cut you off. That's bad advice on the parts of the agents too.
100%.
That's bad advice on the parts of the agents too. And this is if you watch any of our market reports, a lot of them have a common theme that just says, what is it? Who you hire matters.
Who you hire matters, you know.
And it makes a difference. And we've had clients that have been in those situations where we've put in 10, 15 offers on houses and lost out on all of them.
Yeah.
But the point, but most, have we had buyers that haven't bought, that wanted to buy, that haven't bought? I don't.
What do you mean?
Like we've in all those situations where we've had buyers that were looking to buy, genuinely looking to buy, and had put offers and had lost, all of them are in homes now.
Yes, eventually we get the combination. Eventually it works out. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 offers. Sometimes the first time. Sometimes we got to go through
But it's-
10 offers and eventually we buy.
And-
but they all go through and they all feel confident in what they paid for the house.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is I think a lot of times when you're in that situation where you've lost 4 or 5, your agent's probably really anxious too about the fact that they're spending a lot of time drafting up these offers to going to see these houses.
I know a lot of
And-
people
and-
don't realize, but agents are people too. And they get
Stare into the
frustrated.
camera for that one.
Agents are people too. Understand?
But and it's frustrating, and then they at that point it's just probably okay, empty out the tank on this house. Just if you want it, just go for it. And that's
a
bad.
terrible
Yeah,
thing to do.
It's bad advice. It's bad
It's
advice.
the way we do it. Now, this is, I don't want to make this a self-promotion thing, but basically,
It's our channel.
for those, we can say what we like. It's our channel
think we
for
can.
those. But this is all to the agents
No,
watching
yeah.
us also. If you're working with a buyer in multiple offers, the advice would be, tell them what you genuinely feel the house is probably going to sell for. with a caveat that someone can still spend 100, 200,000 more than what the, I guess, market value you estimate should be. And what your buyer does with that information is up to them, right?
Yeah.
So it's
But it's important. It's important to know, what should that house actually sell for, and it's tough to understand now, because if you have a house on the street that sells for $1 million, and then a week later another house that's the exact same sells for 1.2. It's tough to figure out the actual
the bar
value.
is moving quickly these days.
But
blind bidding, it doesn't matter the price. It just
yeah,
it puts a bad taste in your mouth, especially if you're the buyer. If you're the seller, you love it, but I mean, it really favors the seller, and some changes need to be done. I know.
Well, the transparency thing, I think anyone that runs their real estate business in a way where they're transparent with their clients will survive and will do well, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we really value. And for us, blind bidding is we have to do it just because we have to be involved. People are buying, people are selling. This is what people want.
We take full advantage of our rules.
Yeah.
It's not like we're doing anything different, but we try to be we follow our rules.
Like one of the big things, and if you've been on the buying end, whether you're an agent or whether you're an actual buyer, you've probably experienced this, is just the lack of respect that agents have for buyers, for offers, for other agents.
Yeah.
It's like the whole time thing. We were talking about this off before we started the show.
So there's an offer date, and they say offers will be reviewed at 6. Please submit your offer by 5 p.m.
Yeah.
So you submit your offer by 5. This is why. Well, why do you think agents don't submit offers first thing in the morning?
Well, because
and they wait till 5.
They don't want it to get shopped around.
They don't trust the listing agent is going to see this number and let other people know. So they, at the last minute, that's when they submit their offer.
Yeah.
And then 6 o'clock rolls around. You figure they're being reviewed. It's 7 o'clock. You're trying to reach the listing agent. What's going on? What's going on? You're down to the last, 2 or 3 offers that are being revised or looked at. It's now 8 o'clock. Why is it taking so long?
Yeah.
Unless you have like 20 offers, there's really only 2 or 3 that are going to matter anyways.
Yeah.
It's 9 o'clock. There's no decision yet. And then next thing you know, we just received another offer.
Yeah.
And that's the winning bid. And it's just like so slimy.
Yeah. No,
that's the problem.
Completely wrong. All it does is make you feel like, your offer's been, they took that offer that you handed in on time and said, hey, beat this.
Well, look, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happens.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't happen, you feel like it happened.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Even if it's legitimate that at the, 2 hours after offers should have been reviewed, somebody decides, you know what, let me put in an offer. And lo and behold, that's the winning bid 2 hours after everyone else has submitted.
Yeah.
And they honored the time.
You can't help but
even if it's legitimate, you can't help but to feel bad, like just to feel dirty about it.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to see that changed. Yeah. I'd like to see, look, if there's a time, sellers got to respect that. If you put a time on there, I've had listing agents when we submit on time, an hour goes by, an hour and a half, I say, what, there's no decision yet? I call, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And they say, oh, we're just waiting for the seller. They got, they're coming home from work. We're going to be looking at this at 8. But you said 6 yesterday.
Yeah.
This morning you said 6. You sent an email to everybody who showed the house.
Your listing that's been up for 2 weeks.
Yeah, your listing's been up for 2 weeks. It's been saying 6. And all of a sudden it's at 8. Well, where's the respect from the listing side that they knew, like, organize your work. So I'd like to see a little bit more respect extended to the buyers that are spending $1 million, $2 million, $3 million to buy homes that are putting offers together. So if there's a time, it should be respected. It 100%. Really should be respected.
100%. Well, this is all to say that, transparency in the industry is definitely necessary. Blind bidding If that's eliminated, will it lower prices?
Okay, well, the bidding part won't be eliminated. Open bidding will help with the transparency. My
Yeah.
opinion is it won't help with prices
Yeah.
because that's just an equation of supply and demand.
Yeah.
And it can go the other way depending on how the market goes.
Yeah.
But open bidding, knowing what the price you're competing against that would make it feel better.
Yeah.
Honoring the time, honoring the date. So they'll put a date, say offers are being reviewed on Saturday,
Yeah.
or we'll look at offers sooner if it's a really good one.
Yeah.
Bully offers. If you have an offer date, that's the date. If you don't have an offer date, then there's no offer date.
Yeah.
You shouldn't. It's like a combination of the two. That should be changed also.
Yeah, 100%. So that's it for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to check out more of these episodes, you can find them on YouTube. You can find them on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, everywhere you go to get your podcasts. And with that said, we are done and we will be back soon.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.